Welcome, my friends. Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Thursday, October 27th. We are here live. I was a little late on the draw there this morning. I wasn't paying attention. I was actually posting and answering questions on the website, and I looked up at the clock. I should probably set some sort of an alarm. Normally, I don't do that, though. So we are here. We're live. We're going to open the phone lines. It is a free-for-all today. Anything goes. You can talk about anything you want. Phone lines are open right now. 855-950-3835. Little warning. It is a free-for-all. You can talk about anything you want. I have a couple of political issues I do want to talk about today. If you don't like politics, you might want to skip the first 10 or 15 minutes or so. May not even be that long. We'll see. Or it could be longer. Who knows? I might have a couple of health issues I'll touch on. It depends on how many calls come in. So one of the things you can do, if you don't want to hear what I have to say, you can just pick up the phone and we'll talk about what you want to talk about. 855-950-3835. So I could go off on so many things on politics right now, but I don't really want to just keep doing that. But I do want to talk about it because we're less than 2 weeks away from the midterms. And, you know, we've kind of said this every election cycle, and now it seems like we were really crying wolf. And when it matters, nobody wants to hear this anymore. It really doesn't have much effect. But I do have to say this time, it's probably the most important election cycle, even though it's not a presidential cycle, which is pretty interesting. But more than that, more than just saying it's important to get out and vote, I doubt that I'm going to convince anybody to vote right now that doesn't vote. And if you don't vote, you probably haven't stayed up on candidates and topics all that well, so may even be better off if you don't vote. I know people hate to hear that, but really, voting is important, but informed voting is really the only important voting. People who go to the polls and vote on what they see in the mainstream media and social media, I hate to say it, but you're part of the problem. I know it feels good to vote, and you're supposed to, and it's your civic duty and all that, but I have to say, if your only information comes from mainstream media, social media, and, you know, what you talk about with your friends, then you're really part of the problem. That voting, unfortunately, has become outrageously complicated anymore. What you hear and see on media today, mainstream or social media, is not only just sometimes outright lies, but it's designed to confuse you. The ballot is designed to confuse you. If you're not very careful about how you vote on ballot issues, yes or no seems really simple, except many times, if you read the wording carefully, what you would think might be a yes answer, you are for this. If you're not careful, you're voting the wrong way. I think it's intentional. I don't know who controls that, but it just seems to me like the wording on most ballot issues is so convoluted that I have to take my time and read it multiple times just to make sure I'm voting correctly. So I'm going to stick to voting here for just a second, and then I'm going to come back to a couple issues I do want to talk about. Phone calls are coming in, so I probably won't spend a lot of time on this. I moved to Oregon. Lisa and I moved here 10 years ago, a little more than that, and I registered to vote as soon as I got here. I vote every election cycle, local, midterms, presidential, every time we can vote. Lisa and I both vote. And it's never been a problem. And I love Oregon's voting system. I certainly don't like their politics, but I love their voting system. It is all mail-in, but it's secure. They've been doing it this way for years. It's not just random ballots mailed out to everybody. You have to be a registered voter. You get your ballot in the mail. There are drop boxes. You don't have to trust the post office. I just dropped mine off right here in town. It's worked fine. We have another issue here in our tiny little town here on the river, and that is we live a mile and a half away from the post office, a mile and a half, and we can't get mail delivered. We're up on a hill, and their excuse is in the wintertime, it's too dangerous to come up here. Only the government would say that. FedEx, UPS, Amazon, their trucks are all over this neighborhood all day long. In the wintertime, they chain up to get up here sometimes. But they do it. Not the post office. Mile and a half away, you have to have a post office box, which we have to pay for, by the way. I'm okay with that, $60 a year, whatever it is. Just seems a little ridiculous. We've gotten used to it until now, and they did something right now that just pisses me off, and I have to wonder if it was intentional or not. 10 years of voting, my ballot always shows up in the mailbox. Lisa's shows up in the mailbox. They get here the same day every year, every time. We've been waiting for our ballots. I'm going out of town. I wanted to get my ballot done before I leave, just in case something happens while I'm on the road. Want to get it done. Yesterday, Lisa brings the mail home. She has a ballot, but I don't. So, well, that's odd. What happened? Lisa starts checking right away, and she finds out my voting rights have been suspended. They're inactive. My voter card is inactive. I thought, how could it be inactive? I vote every time. How can this be? So Lisa's good at tracking this kind of stuff down. She got on the phone and online. Turns out the post office returned my ballot because it didn't have our P.O. box number on it. It had our street address. We've been here for 10 years. It's a really small town. We are the biggest shipper in town, I believe. We ship, and it's our business right here in town. We ship more packages through the post office, I think, than anybody else in town. A lot. They know us. We know them personally. They have always put mail in the box with the street address and no post office box. The problem here, and they have tried to tell us a couple times, you really should have your post office box number on everything. Well, that's putting the problem back on me. I have things shipped to me from hundreds of people and businesses and companies, and sometimes you never know, are they going to use FedEx or UPS, so they have to have a street address. So on everything that gets shipped to me, it doesn't always have a street address in a post office box. But they've always put the mail in my box, and they've just said, when you can, try to make sure you put your post office box down. Fine, I do. I really try now to put it on both. Well, I didn't realize 10 years ago when I registered, I only put my street address on. Well, why all of a sudden did they decide not to deliver my ballot and then inactivate my voting rights? I have to wonder if it's because I'm a registered libertarian. I don't know. It just seems a little crazy to me. So now today, when my day was pretty well planned out already, we have a lot of stuff going on. I'm trying to get a lot of recordings done before I take off, so we have new content next week. I leave tomorrow afternoon. Today and tomorrow were totally booked for me, except I'm going to have to take what could, take 2 hours today to drive to the county election office and get this fixed and get my ballot and fill it out so my vote may actually count this year. And you've heard me say many years I vote, but I know in most races in Oregon, my vote just doesn't matter much at all. And People say, oh, no, that's not true. No, sometimes it is. Sometimes the races in the states are so lopsided, you know that your vote's not going to matter. And that's been the case in Oregon most of the time. Still vote. There are issues I get to vote on where my vote does matter. This year, 2 really big issues for me, and my vote will count. So I'm making sure it gets in. One, we have a shot at electing a Republican governor in Oregon. That seems a little crazy to me, but we might do it. That would be wonderful if we're able to. And also, there is a measure on the ballot that would really tighten gun regulations here in the state and would create what they call a gun registry. So now the state wants to know every gun I own, and it's none of their damn business. I bought them all legally, and they do not need to know what I own, and I don't want them to know what I own. It would also ban most of the magazines I own. They're banning high-capacity magazines and clips. And 2 issues that are really important that we do have a shot at Oregon. The governor's race is really tight right now, so we have a shot at that. And fortunately, half of our state, the eastern half of the state where not a lot of people live, but we do have a lot of ranchers and farmers, and they're very, very pro-gun. So we have a shot at defeating that and electing a Republican governor. So I want to make sure my ballot counts this year. One thing real quick, just because I am shocked that this administration just gets more and more ridiculous every day. Then I'm going to get to your calls because they're really starting to come in. I'm not going to go through all the problems in this country. Anybody who watches, well, I shouldn't say that. Anybody who watches a more conservative news outlet like Fox or Rebel or OAN, OAN. There are several. If you've been watching those news networks or you do your own research, actually go read things and don't depend on the media and social media, you know all the problems. Record setting in really, really bad ways. Record border crossings. We have no southern border anymore. Record fentanyl deaths and opioid deaths because of all the drugs coming across the southern border. Record high inflation, record high gas prices. The war in Ukraine, we're just pouring money into it to protect democracy when Ukraine is nowhere near a democracy, never has been, but we just keep sending them all kinds of money, ironically, to protect their borders. We won't protect our own. We'll spend billions and billions of dollars to protect theirs. I could keep going on. There's plenty more problems. But with all that going on, here's what the administration took time out yesterday for. And think about inflation. What's really hurting people? Food and gas, number one. We're rationing fuel oil in the Northeast already, and winter hasn't even started, barely. And people can't put gas in their car. They can't put food on the table. They're worried about filing bankruptcy. And here's what they decided to do to tackle inflation. They're going to go after junk fees. What? Junk fees? What the hell are they talking about? You know, on lots of bills that you get, maybe your phone bill or your electric bill, or there's all these little fees they add on, and they do add up. They're annoying as hell. I get it. Nobody's going bankrupt over those fees, but they're going to go after those. There's another part of this that's really ironic, too. They're going to go after those junk fees. Airline tickets. That's the one that Biden really focused on. But here's the thing. This isn't one of those random fees he wants to get rid of in the airlines. There's so many problems with this. It's not a random fee. It's not something they tacked on that you have no control over. He stood up yesterday and said, we're going to go after these airlines for charging fees if you want more leg room. He actually claimed it was racist. It's hard on black and brown people, he said. That is so obnoxious. Minorities should be outraged at that statement. Why is that hard on black and brown people? Because Joe Biden assumes that black and brown people are poor. He said it once, remember? Something about, black and brown people are just as smart as rich. I forget the exact quote, but you can go look it up. You remember it was clear where his head is and what he thinks about black and brown people. How obnoxious. And here's the thing. If you want more leg room, you have to pay for it. If you want a bigger latte at Starbucks, you have to pay for it. That's not some random fee. That's paying to get something more. And the government has no business telling private businesses what they can charge anybody. There's lots of airlines. You don't like their fee, go to another airline. But what about this? Look at those same bills that have these fees on that he claims we'll go after them. And that's going to help everybody with inflation. Look, if you can still afford to fly on a plane, that fee to get some extra legroom, which is a choice, by the way, isn't a problem for you. It's just not. How just insane. But go back to the bill. Look at where those fees are down at the bottom. What's down there with them? All kinds of taxes. This tax, that tax. Joe Biden has no control over what a private company wants to charge somebody. He has all kinds of control over taxes. He's the president. He and his party controls both chambers. If they want to do something about the crap piled on the bottom of all your utility bills and phone bills and airline tickets and all those things, then do away with the damn taxes, something you can control. All right, I should go to the phones. Let's go to Indiana. Sarah, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
I had a bit of advice for Kent, who you did the one-on-one with yesterday.
Okay, great.
He said that he had quit smoking before in the past and knows he can do it again. I'm not saying this will work, but it works for me. I know everybody's got this works for me. But we can use the I lost when you take placebo. We can use the placebo effect to our benefit. We can use the power of our mind to our benefit. I was driving down the road, listening to Larry Wing, and he said, "You want to quit smoking? Just quit putting cigarettes in your mouth." And we're like, "Duh." So that's a no-brainer. But what I did between that, which was in Arizona, and the end of my trip, which was in New York, is every time I had an urge to have a cigarette, and I couldn't not because I needed something to do, I repeated things to myself, all the reasons why I didn't want to smoke. It makes me stink. It makes my hair stink. It makes my clothes stink. Oh, I'm getting a headache. It's giving me a headache. This is horrible. Just every time while you're smoking, repeat all the things to yourself why you don't want to smoke. And very quickly, your brain will be like, well, then why are you doing this? And my whole life smoking, I was like, well, I can't quit now. I got half a pack of cigarettes left. But by the time, it's a waste of money. And then I thought to myself, you idiot.
I know.
All you're going to do is burn this stuff up anyway. So, after a weekend of every time I took a puff, this is giving me a headache. This is going to make me sick. After a weekend of that, I finally looked down and I said, you know what? I'm done. And I crumpled up the pack that was still half full and I threw it away. And another important part, to replace that habit while you're driving of reaching for something and putting it to your mouth, we found something ingenious that is not only distracts you from that habit, but it also benefits you. Get these little plastic tooth pickers. They're called plackers. Every time you want to reach for a cigarette, reach for a placker and clean out your teeth in between, clean out floss between your teeth. You replace it's a hand to mouth activity that helps you replace that habit.
Excellent. Both points. I want to make sure people got the first point correctly. You're not doing this mantra thing in your mind, going through this mantra of all the bad things after you've tried to quit. You're doing it before you quit, while you're smoking. So you're creating a negative connotation around smoking while you're smoking. That's a really important part. If you tried to do it after, it wouldn't have any impact, because then you're craving the nicotine and you're craving that habit, and you're not going to convince yourself at that point. The really important point here is do it while you're smoking and turn this into a negative, because over time, all of these, addictive substances, whether it's, alcohol, tobacco, cannabis, whatever it is, your body has created such a positive connotation to them. They make you relax. They make you feel good. You like the taste, whatever it is. So your point is excellent. Right. You have to do this while you're smoking. Great stuff.
I lost you.
Nope, we're here.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I heard him last night. I'm like, I know he can do it. And then he asked about Chantix. I'm like, no, there's better ways. Use the placebo effect.
Excellent.
In your favor. Like you said, it was very helpful and just really powerful to do it while you're smoking. Like you said, create that negative feedback loop in your brain about what you're doing. And your brain takes over and just like, ugh, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff. All right. Thanks, Sarah.
Yep.
Talk to you soon. Let's go to Missouri. Dale, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. I was talking to you the other day about gardening. Remember the other day I told you about the buddy of mine whose grandpa taught him that deal with the potatoes and the cattle panel with the straw?
Yeah, love that.
Grown vertically. Yeah, and he was talking about growing zucchini and squash, things like of that nature, and peppers, and I think even tomatoes in bales of hay.
Right.
So that I think it's Dr. J's. That the guy you buy your
Dr.
chicken soup for the soil from?
Dr. Jim's.
Jim's with the Z, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, I got on their website after you talked about Dr. Jim's, and ended up being one of them websites I don't like because they just email the shit out of me. Oh, I got to figure out how to get them to not do that.
It's really easy to turn that off. It's right in your account settings on the website. I agree. They have a couple of informational things they send out a couple times a year that I really like, but they will overwhelm you with emails. It's really easy to turn off.
All right, I'll have to get in their website.
It's really no different than, if you're a member of either one of our sites and you haven't turned off notifications, I try not to overwhelm it. We even have a counter that when I go to, notify people that I've posted something, it tells me you've already sent 2 today. We try to limit it to 2, but that's 2 a day. I mean, it's a lot in your email box, really is. And this morning, I think there was something I really wanted people to see, so I think I actually did 3. But we also try to show people you can just turn this off. You have total control over this.
Yeah. But back to the bale of straw thing.
Yeah.
When you plant, I guess you sprout. Do you sprout your seeds in the bale, or do you sprout them in a soil medium and then put them in the bale?
So let me explain the
process. And then you just keep them watered.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
From start to finish, and it's pretty simple. There's a couple different options on how you can do this. One is how you prepare the hay bales. So the first time I did this, I didn't even know about this till it was, pretty close to planting time. So if you've got new hay or straw or whatever it is you're using, you have to condition that first. And what you do is you take pure nitrogen fertilizer, and it's cheap. You buy it in bulk, and every other day you sprinkle the hay bales heavily with this pure nitrogen fertilizer and then soak them with water. And you have to do that for about 3 weeks. And what it does is it really starts to break down the material in there and compost it quickly. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to get the composting going in this bale before we try to plant in it. The interesting thing I found was I had my bales all lined up over at the edge of my property, and on the other side, the property was just a vacant lot, so it was mostly weeds. And I was shocked at the end of the 3 weeks, the weeds had grown to like 4 feet tall, and they were deep green, and pure nitrogen makes plants grow like crazy. You don't want to do that to your garden because it's horrible for it. The next time I do it, I don't even want to do it on the soil. So actually, I'm just going to switch. There's another method of doing this as long as you have time. So the better way to do it is I already have my hay bales for the spring. They're just going to sit out all winter. They'll be well composted, still nice and tight because you don't take the twine off or anything. You leave them compact, but they'll be nice and composted in the spring. I don't have to dump all that nitrogen on them, which I didn't like doing. So that's the 2 ways to prepare the bale. Now, when you go to plant, what you're actually doing is I actually use a chainsaw for this because it works better than anything else I found. I just take the tip of the chainsaw and I cut out a little square about 6 inches deep into the bale. And a chainsaw works great. Then you fill that little 6-inch square pocket with your planting soil. A good, nice, light, planting soil. You can put your seeds right in it if you want, or I just take a plant that I was already growing in my greenhouse, my grow room, and put the plant in there just like you would in the ground.
Okay, and then like for tomatoes, didn't you say you grew tomatoes in a bale also?
I did. They grew like crazy.
So I was wondering because tomatoes require a lot of water. How do you keep them wet?
My whole garden requires almost daily watering. Some areas I just know plants that like a little bit of water every day, and then there are other plants that like a lot of water every other day or every third day. So that's part of how I have to arrange the garden. But I have a watering system that's automatic that I can change. It's easy for me to move around and change my irrigation. So because we can go 100 days here in Oregon with no rain. It's pretty common in the summer. We almost always hit 90 days with no rain, and we've hit 100 before. So I have to water everything.
So you got to have like micro irrigation or something.
I have multiple. I have drip irrigation. I have sprayers. I have micro irrigation on some things. My irrigation system is fairly complex, and I have to water all summer long.
Okay, so that makes sense. And so like back where you live, because here in the Midwest, my son lives in Portland, actually just outside of Portland, a few miles north of the airport.
Oh, yep.
But anyhow, we get about the same average rainfall down in southwest Missouri where I live.
Dale, I just thought of something.
Yeah.
A few miles north of the airport is Vancouver, Washington.
Yeah, he lives damn near. He's just inside the state line. He's looking at, I don't know exactly where the island is, but he's looking at buying some land on an island in the Columbia River.
Yeah, I know where it is.
An acre in there.
Yeah. Yep. And
I think the 405, I looked at it on a map, crosses that island.
That island is like all farmland, too. It's supposed to be awesome soil in there. I think that if it's the island I'm thinking of, we have several around the city because we have a couple rivers, but that island, I think, is almost all farmland.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is good or not, because I asked him about an island in a river and flooding, and he goes, well, it's actually a 4, and where I live is 6. So I guess a 4 is pretty safe, I guess.
Yeah, we never hear anything about flooding around here. We're right on a huge river. We have 2 rivers in the city, but I guess we do have flooding at times. But I don't ever really remember hearing about the islands flooding, though. It tends to be the smaller tributaries that feed the 2 big rivers that we have that flood.
Oh, they get overrun,
right,
from snow melt.
Right. The 2 big rivers don't seem to have that problem.
But we get back to that. We got pretty much the same average rainfall as you guys get there in right around in Portland as where I live, and I just live in a little smaller town than you do, Elkland. But
okay.
So if you get into that potato thing, I think you have to irrigate anyways. I think a good design for you would probably be to run your water line up the center like his grandpa did. I think you would probably want to spur off of that with a drip line on every layer, one over every eye, probably, wouldn't you?
Yeah, or, I could easily put, and again, I do some pretty custom irrigation stuff. I could see putting just one at the very top and letting, watering it long enough that it filters all the way down through.
Right.
Yeah, my ear, like I said, I've kind of really perfected the irrigation. Like I said, I have different pieces, and I can control each one separately, and I can move them around, and I can change them. And I have this system that I get from a company called Gardeners.com, and they call it a snip and drip. So it's a drip system with a pretty big drip hose, soaker hose kind of stuff. And they have quick connectors, and you can use either their drip hose or just cheap garden hose. So if you have a section that you don't want to drip water, but then you want another section after that, it takes me just minutes. You just snip this stuff with cutters, put a new connector on it. They have angle connectors. And I can build a drip system in a half hour, and I can modify it in minutes.
Right. So this area is done for the season. Snip.
Exactly.
Put a length of non-leaking hose in there, and you're done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or
what's that outfit called? Because
the website, one of my favorites for gardening equipment and supplies and things like that, gardeners.com. Really simple.
Oh, that's pretty. Doesn't get much simpler than that.
Yeah.
I'll have to check into that, because that sounds even more simple than the micro irrigation.
I do some micro irrigation in areas where I have a really small area set off somewhere. I do a little bit of that. And there are connectors that allow me to tie my micro irrigation, my really small tubing, into that snip and drip system. That's pretty big tubing. I can get a lot of water on the ground with that system, but I can also just tie in a little micro tubing section to it as well.
Yeah, I like that micro stuff. It's so simple, man. You poke you would think this shit would leak like a sieve the way you put it. You just poke a hole in there and stick something in there, and it don't leak for some reason. It's really weird.
That's the same way this snip and drip system works. It's just a lot bigger. It's the same thing. You cut this stuff apart on the fly, you screw on a connector, and nothing leaks.
Oh, so I'll get along with, after using micro irrigation, you'll get along with this stuff pretty well then.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate it, and I'll look after getting some hay bales, and just letting them sit outside. They'll have everything they need to start producing plants.
It's actually
by spring.
Yeah, it's actually much better than trying to rush it in 3 weeks with a bunch of nitrogen. So yeah, letting them sit out all winter, they are just really well conditioned to start planting into.
Okay, good enough then. That was the missing piece of the puzzle for me. I'll let you answer someone else's question. I appreciate it.
Good talking to you. Let's go to Arizona. Chris, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for taking my call.
What's on your mind today?
Quick question. Well, do you? I'm kind of making a timeline here. I'm going to see my doctor tomorrow about when I started to eat differently. When did you start your daytime slot on XM?
Oh, you would think I would know that. I'm thinking 20. Here's something that might help. What was the year that I did the big long road trip where I hit all those events? I was out on the road for like 4 months. Is that 2017 or 2018? I think it was 2017 because the next year, 2018, was our big CMC, the last one we did. So I'm thinking it was 2017 because I remember when I was on the road on that trip, they had me fill in on the daytime show a couple times, and I didn't know it at the time, but that was kind of like my tryout for whether I was going to get moved to the daytime slot or not.
Oh, okay. All right, so we're getting 2017.
It had to be somewhere around there. There are listeners that probably know that better than I do. Somebody might text me and let me know.
Yeah, okay. All right, so to my question, I've got some pretty scary numbers back on a blood test relating to my kidneys, and I'm wondering if high protein affects kidney function in a negative way.
No.
That's what I'm being told.
Well, this is kind of a misconception. It's not totally wrong. What most of the research shows, remember, there are people who are doing extremely well on carnivore diets. We had whole societies that eat nothing but protein for the most part, and they're completely healthy, no strain on their kidneys whatsoever. The reason we're told this is because if you develop kidney disease of some sort, then the protein does become a problem. So you do have to watch protein if you develop some sort of a kidney disease, and then they'll blame it on the protein, but that's just not true. There's some other cause, and I don't know what your kidney numbers are, or here's what I would recommend, though.
Yeah.
Honestly, probably the biggest factor. I can give them to
you. I have them, but
yeah. The biggest factor, and I if you have them, I will take them here in just a second. The biggest factor here is, if I could give you any advice about this whatsoever, it's don't just cancel your appointment for tomorrow. Do not do this with a traditional doctor. No matter what you tell them.
No, I don't have one.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we've been, even before I changed my diet after listening to you, when you came on Daytimes and you relaunched Destination Health, and we were already clean at that point. Okay. I mean, we ate real good, clean, organic food. What I changed back then was I was really heavy into grains, healthy whole grains, right?
Yeah.
So so I got away from that. I had all kinds of those, good healthy cereals for breakfast and oatmeal and things.
Right.
And my wife back then she homemade all of our bread for like 20 years. Right. What we were trying to do was eat clean as far as chemicals went.
Exactly.
We were trying to stay organic and away from preservatives.
So
I got rid of all that
from scratch,
and
not all the processed food. Yeah, and I did that same thing. And I was heavy into grains.
We were there.
Yeah, I know.
Yep. So I eliminated most of that, and I had a lot of fruit back then, and I cut way back on the fruit. And, there were things that did get better, no doubt about it. I mean, I cured, a lifetime of acid reflux by making that change.
Excellent.
Which was huge for me.
Yes.
I mean, I could not get rid of acid reflux.
That's a quality of life.
Pill,
yeah, that's a quality of life issue. That affects you every day.
Yes, it drove me nuts. So, fast forward, so let's say take mid 2017, we're guessing, to now, and I kind of settled in on what is just really a meat and vegetable diet. I don't count carbs. I don't worry about carbs coming from vegetables, and we eat good grass-fed, free-range chicken and quality meat. And pretty much every meal I'm eating meat and vegetables, and minimal grains. I'm on absolutely no drugs at all. I'm 53. I'm 5'11" and 160 pounds. I don't have a weight problem, But boy, we took this test and sent up this blood test, and I get these nasty numbers back on my kidneys, and my wife's kind of freaking out.
So before you give me the numbers, tell me about your doctor.
Yeah. He is, we've been with this guy since we were both teenagers. He is, back then we called him homeopathic or holistic, but I think, we treat things this way through diet and supplementation. He doesn't prescribe a drug unless
Excellent.
he absolutely has to. Like Excellent. If one of us is really sick, then he'll be like, okay, look, we've tried everything else. Let's throw an antibiotic at this. Okay.
Got it.
He's not on any kind of insurance. This is all, he does what he wants and we pay for it. I'm saying there's no insurance involved here because they run the show and the insurance company,
Right.
If you're going through insurance, the insurance company tells the doctor what.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's who we've been with for 20 years. I take a ton of supplements, and I can't even remember them all. I don't think we need to go there. But it's just this kidney numbers got me scared. And I know I got a feeling he's going to tell me it's because of my diet. And I'm going to be like, well, what's wrong with meat and vegetables?
And if he does, I understand you've been with him all this time.
Yeah.
He sounds like a much better doctor, than 99% of them. If he does say it's too much protein, I would just seek a second opinion of a functional medicine doctor. Somebody who's been through like the IFM, like a Chris Kresser.
Okay.
Just as a second opinion. I'm not saying abandon your doctor. Obviously, the guy's done a lot of great stuff for you, and he is good with your diet.
Yeah.
But if he leans towards, I think this is too much protein, I'd want a second opinion on that.
Okay. Yeah, because my question then becomes, well, what do I eat?
Exactly, because we know,
where do I go from here?
If you don't eat meat or animal products, which is the highest sources of protein, all of them, whether it's meat, dairy, eggs, whatever, those are our best sources of protein and our highest.
All of those. Yeah.
If you drop those, what do you eat? I can't eat enough vegetables to ever be satisfied. So then I have to start throwing in the fillers like grains. And that's why
that word satisfied. Let me expand on. Yeah, let me expand on that word satisfied. Here's the thing that's different about me than 99% of your callers. I have got, since I was a kid, I have got a metabolism that is in warp speed all day. I eat every 2 to 3 hours. In fact, I can't make 2 hours anymore. And this was one of the reasons why we got the blood test and went to see him in the first place.
Right.
Because my eating frequency is shrinking and my urination is going through the roof. And I'm just like, I can't keep up with this eating schedule anymore. I just can't. I mean, my lunchbox, it takes a forklift to put it in the truck, and that's not normal. I know it's not, but...
Right. That alone would kind of push me to go seek another functional medicine doctor just to try to figure out that mystery.
Yeah, okay. Actually, what we've just signed on to is a guy that's going to... He deals with this. My wife found him on the internet. His name's Isaac Pullman. He's going to try to walk us through, because he's a type 1 diabetic, and this is what he does, is try to walk people through this diabetes area and this constant eating, high metabolism, where, that kind of just seemed to be his niche. And so we just got signed up with him before the blood test came back.
Let me ask you two questions. And I just try not to assume anything about anybody anymore. And I know these questions are sensitive,
Yep.
but did you have COVID and did you get the vaccine?
I had COVID on the first try, when it was original.
Okay. Before any
prior
of the
to the
variants?
vaccine, you know what I'm trying to say?
Right. Okay.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yes.
Yeah.
And I have no vaccine.
Okay,
Absolutely
good.
not.
That takes away one thing we have to worry about that we don't know enough about to know if it could cause problems like this. But we still don't know enough about COVID because they just, are so bad at sharing any kind of information. We don't know if COVID can cause things like this.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as the metabolism go, it's been my whole life.
Okay.
I know COVID caused some things. I think I've got some brain fog from COVID. But man, I don't know how else to say it, bro. I'm just starving all the time. I think I pushed that down and ignored it for the last
Let me ask you this.
Because I kept saying to myself.
Let me ask you this. So you and I sound pretty similar when it comes to that. I mean,
Yes.
Same way.
Yeah.
There are times where, and that has changed dramatically for me. But there's one thing that you will hear everywhere. Everybody pushes this, all the natural health practitioners, because for most people it's probably true. They always say protein is the most satisfying of the macronutrients. It's the one that will satisfy your appetite the most, keep your appetite down. I've said it before, that does not work for me. I can eat a mountain of meat and I still want something else. Here's what it is for me. It's not it's not protein for me. It's just pure fat. I have to, if I want to satisfy my appetite, I have to load up on the fat. Now, on a carnivore diet, that's easy. I just eat the fatty cuts of meat, and I add butter to all my vegetables, and I put butter in my coffee.
Yeah,
and I use
brain
octane, and if I get to the point where I feel
struggled
like
with the brain octane.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people do. I'm glad I don't because I love that stuff. But if I get to that point where you are, and I've never gotten to kind of that extreme, but I've gotten to the point where it's almost annoying. Why am I hungry again? And what I'll do is I'll just go to 2 cups of NDK coffee in the morning instead of 1. So I get that other, another big shot of fat in the morning. And everybody says it's protein that does that. Not for me. It's fat that satisfies my appetite.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I suppose I could increase the fat a little bit. I did struggle with those kind of coconut oils, or most oils seem to bother me.
We've got
to a point now where we just cook with either butter. Okay, yeah, we cook with butter or ghee, and that's all my wife cooks with now.
You know another one you want to try that you will absolutely love?
Okay.
Get ready for sticker shock, but it is one of the really expensive oils. Real good, clean duck fat from a company like Fatworks. Duck fat it's so good, and it's so rich. And it's good, healthy animal fat, but it's satisfying and it's rich and makes your food taste amazing.
Okay. Cool. Okay. You want these kidney numbers, are they going to help you at all?
Let's go through them. Maybe something will jump out.
I don't know. Yeah. So urea nitrogen. My test result was 33. It says that's high because the normal is 7 to 28.
Right. Okay.
Creatinine, I'm probably destroying that word.
No, you got it.
Is a 1.7. It says It says 1.7, which is high. Normal is 0.60 to 1.5.
Did they do an albumin to creatine ratio test?
I don't see that one.
Okay.
I snapped a picture of the things that were high, and I left the rest of the paperwork at home.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, the last one the last one is just a bunch of letters. So it's EGFR-CRCKD-EPI.
Okay.
And that says 47, which is low. It should be plus or minus 60. And those are the numbers. My wife got on the internet at the kidney fund and said, "You're in stage 3 kidney failure."
No, you're not.
Like, okay.
No, you're not. And this is, again, why...
Yeah, thank you. That's what I think, too.
The functional lab ranges are different than the traditional lab ranges. That's why I really want you to run this by... And again, I'm not criticizing your doctor in any way. I think it's amazing that far back he was doing the right thing, and he always has. But I do find, I grew up with a doctor like that. He was a traditional MD, but he believed in chiropractic and acupuncture and supplements, and I just loved the guy. He was fantastic.
Yep.
I grew up in a small town, and they had 15 kids, so I also knew all of his kids and played sports with them, and he was just an amazing doctor. But I do find that a lot of those doctors that have been homeopathic forever have not kept up with a lot of the new functional medicine. And I get it. They've been doing it this way for decades, and they're successful, and I get it. But a lot of this new crop of doctors, Chris Kresser isn't a doctor, but he's a clinician, and the true functional medicine doctors, like Dr. Axe, and I could go on and on. Dr. Mark Hyman at the Cleveland Clinic. These guys are kind of the cutting edge of the new functional ranges, and they look at all of these things differently. I'm not seeing anything that jumps out at me that's all that far out of whack on one test. You know what I mean? Sometimes on one test we get some wacky numbers.
Okay. Yeah, that was another opinion I had too. Was this is one test. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater just yet. Let's get more and see where this goes.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if there's something else. Hey, again, I don't want to try to diagnose this over the phone. Have you ever filled out
No, I just kind of wanted to get your opinion.
Yeah. Now, have you ever filled out a NutriQ?
I haven't. No.
Why don't you go do a NutriQ? Let me look at it.
Okay.
The nice thing about the NutriQ...
Is that something I get on your website?
Yeah, if you go to the website... You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put you on hold when I'm done with you, and Angie's going to help you, and we'll get it done quicker than normal. It's like a multi-step process. You fill something out. We send you an email back. You go fill out the form. I'll have Angie help you with this, and we'll get it done quicker. Here's the beauty I love about the NutriQ. It's just questions. We're just going to ask you about a lot of symptoms, how you feel, what happens when you do this. It's just that kind of stuff. No right or wrong answer to these. But what it does is it gives us a snapshot of what's going on in your whole body. We're going to find, there might be one weird little symptom in there that I'll look at and go, oh, that's what's going on. Whereas right now, all we're looking at are one set of numbers for one organ in your body. And we don't have any organs that work on their own. This is the problem with medicine today. We have specialized so far that the kidney doctor only looks at kidney numbers, and he has no idea what the hell's going on in your liver.
Yeah, and they're connected.
Everything, nothing in our body works on its own. So the NutriQ, even though we're not going to poke you, we're not drawing any blood, we're just going to ask you a bunch of questions. But it's been so well designed that it really gives us a good overall picture of what's going on.
Cool. All right.
All right. So
thank you.
Any other questions for me?
No. We see him tomorrow, and I just kind of wanted to get your feel on that. Because I just got a funny feeling he might say to me, because he told my son this, who's probably 30. He told my son, who was building muscle at the time, really weightlifting, he was like, be careful on your protein intake because it's hard on your kidneys.
Oh, so I
got a feeling that's what he's going to tell me.
I agree with the first part of his statement. I do. I tell people all the time, especially people who are bodybuilders, because they've had it pounded into their head that they need so much protein, and they're taking protein supplements and drinking protein shakes and eating protein bars. Yeah. And I tell people all the time, if you're eating a good, clean keto or carnivore diet especially, don't worry about protein. I don't care how much you're working out. In fact, if you think you need more protein, what you're probably doing is working out too much anyway. You're probably overtraining. Almost everybody does. Back off the training and get rid of any supplemental protein. Do not supplement protein. Get it from your diet. So I'm actually with him on the first part of the statement. And you know what? I'll even go with him to the second part. If that source of protein is all these powders and shakes and drinks and bars, it probably is hard on the kidneys.
Yeah, it was.
But if it's just real food,
that's what he was into.
The only thing I would say, now that we have seen one test with some elevated numbers, why not swap out some of your protein for fat and see what happens?
Okay. Yeah.
See what happens. And it may help your appetite.
Yeah. Well, I hope something does. I'm about ready to eat the steering wheel here.
I know. Give it a shot. Give it a shot. See what happens.
Okay. All right. That sounds good.
I'm going to put you.
We'll look up that duck fat thing.
Yep. I'm going to put you back in the queue, and Angie will grab you, and we'll get that NutriQ going. Let's go to Illinois this time. Jerry, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kevin. I just got a few cleanup tidbits for you this morning, and you'll need a pencil and paper for one of them anyway. But first off, your post office story. My mother, years ago, I got my mother set up with a post office box for all her business mail because she had some unhappy differences with some family and just kind of wanted to keep it isolated to the post office. So she retained that post office box for years and years and years. And then she moved into an apartment literally right across the street from the post office, and they allowed her to retain that post office box free of charge because she lived within so many feet of the post office. And yet you can't even get one. We're a little bitty town of only 1,100 people, and there's a lot of people in town that have a mailbox and still get their mail delivered to their house in a mailbox, but yet you can't get yours a mile and a half from the post office.
Because of the big hill. We can't go up that big hill.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, give me a break. Come on. We have mail delivery in town. I mean, our town, the entire town is 2 miles long and a half a mile wide. That's it. That's the whole town. And it can't grow. It can never grow. We're in a protected area here in the gorge. It's federal land. We cannot grow an inch past these borders. And I can't get mail delivered. It's insane.
Now, do they have curbside mail with a mail truck, or do they have a walking postman?
No, it's a contract. It's an individual that lives here in town, and he drives around in his pickup truck and puts mail in the box. And he's the same guy that comes. Right. He's the same guy that comes to our business every day. He makes a run out to us because he needs an empty truck. We ship so much stuff out.
Oh, Lordy.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
But I can't get...
I tell you.
And you know what? I got used to that. I'm okay with that. The post office is a mile and a half away, and one of our employees goes to the post office every day to pick up our business mail anyway, so we have them pick up our personal mail. It's not a big deal until... After 10 years of doing this, you send my ballot back, and then they just inactivate my voter card? Don't tell me that was a coincidence.
Here's another quirk is I used to have mail delivered to a physical address, and then I went over the road and long haul, so I had a post office box anyway. So I switched my IFTA an address to my post office box. Because I'm never home to get mail, I have everything delivered to the post office box.
Right.
The state sent it back and said they would not deliver to a post office box. They have to have a physical address. And I finally, in talking to that lady, she could not comprehend that somebody doesn't get mail delivered to their physical address. She could not comprehend that. And I finally ended up having to send them a letter to attest to the fact that I do not get mail delivery at my physical address, send it to my post office box. And they finally accepted that. And now I get my gift at the post office box instead of the physical address.
Well, when it comes to voting, and I understand this and I'm actually okay with it, when it comes to voting, because I have a P.O. box and that's where my mail has to go to, that has to be on my voter registration. But for security, my physical address also has to be on the voter registration, which I get. They want to know that I'm a real human being and I live somewhere. Right. But after 10 years of this, you send it back. I'm having a hard time believing it's a coincidence.
Oh, it's just plumb nuts, isn't it? So, on to the real reason I called. Two other little quick things, I guess. I just want to tell Matt he's got somebody giving him a run for his money anyway, and that is on fuel gauges. And I was a late adopter to fuel gauges. You actually had it out a few months before I finally started, and only because for some irrational reason I didn't want to start till the beginning of the year. So I didn't start until January 1st, 2010.
Okay.
So since January 1st, 2010, and this is as of like a week and a half ago, 2,024,644 miles, 2,488 fuel ups.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
So you said something about Matt having about 2 million miles in fuel gauges, and I just want to let him know he's got somebody giving him a run for his money. He probably started that several months before me, too. So
Excellent. I love that. I'm sure
that's just
gonna,
FYI. I wanted to.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll text me with his numbers or something.
Well, I'm about a week and a half behind on fuel tickets, too, so I'll probably have another 5,000 or 6,000 miles and half a dozen more fuel tickets too after I get updated today. But anyway, so
real quick, one more comment on that. What I love about that is one of the things we wanted to do when we set this up, and we wanted to do more of it, as we did some and we wanted to do more, and then we got sidetracked on a lot of other projects. But part of it was we did want to gamify that system. We wanted people to compete against each other for all kinds of things. Who's tracking the most miles? Who's getting the best fuel mileage? All that stuff. So I love it when people do that.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to send Aaron an email. I talked to I think Morgan the other day about. I've got a couple of suggestions on. I know you're getting ready to improve it slightly, and I've just got a couple of suggestions that I'm going to send Aaron an email whenever I get time. But I haven't had time yet. So.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anyway. You're looking for more book recommendations for this winter when your feet are propped up and you're heating your house with wood because you can't get propane. Have you ever? Well, I got it too, actually. Have you ever heard of the author Robert Galbraith?
No.
Well, you have, and you just don't know it. Robert Galbraith is the pen name for J.K. Rowling, who I'm sure you've heard of.
But believe it or not,
writing all the Harry.
Yeah, my son grew up kind of in that area, and he's a big reader, so he's a big Harry Potter fan. I've never read any of the books.
Well, I have, but she's very, very famous for all that whole series, but she decided to take a different direction and decided to use, because of the nature of the books, she had a pen name of Robert Galbraith, and it's all based of a London-based detective series. I think there may be 6 books in the series, and just really interesting books. Get very, very, very detailed, and sometimes it's a little dark subject matter, but they're very fascinating books. I really enjoyed that series.
So did you?
And I've actually read the last one.
I want to try one. Did you say that she wrote those under her pen name? So I have to go look under the pen name?
Yes, you have to look under Robert Galbraith.
Okay.
Galbreath or something like that. So
close enough.
Yeah, that's her pen name.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll find it. Really, really good series. I just finished the last one, and There's another one go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. I remember reading something a long time ago that women authors tended to do this earlier in their career because that there was this statistic that male authors sell better. So there were women authors who would take male pen names for that reason.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
So, well, I think she might have did it because of the subject matter. Some of the subject matter is a little dark, and they get a little. The vulgarity doesn't bother me, but I think with her Harry Potter fan base, I think maybe this is a whole different direction for her. So she about had to have a pen name, I think. So that's why I think she did it.
Got it. It's also why.
And then the other one is.
It's actually also why I remember this part of it. If you look at her name that she uses now as an author, if you don't know her, you don't know if that's a male or a female, J.K. Rowling.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought of that. So, if you're getting clear through, the Jack Reacher series was written by Lee Child, and there's another book that I think you'd find fascinating. I believe it's only available on Audible, so if you're riding along on the train, you can listen to it, because I think it's an Audible original. It was originally written as a podcast in different, about one a week or one every 2 weeks or something, and then combined into a book. The name of the book is the Chopin Manuscript. And the way it was written was one author wrote the first chapter. He then sent that chapter to another author. They wrote the second chapter. And they sent those two chapters to a third author.
I remember
and I think there's 15 authors, and one of them is Lee Childs, that wrote the Jack Reacher series. One of the authors involved in that Chopin manuscript project was Lee Child.
Interesting. I'm going to go look for this too. I read another book
fascinating.
like that a long time ago, and it was so interesting to follow the story with all those different styles of writing, and you could clearly see the style change, and it was so interesting. Now, is this Chopin like the composer?
Correct. It has something to do with a hidden or a previously unknown Chopin manuscript.
Got it. Okay.
And that's where the title comes. But it's just fascinating to see how each author develops a story completely different than what the previous author did. It's just a fascinating little book to listen. I think it's only available on Audible because it says Audible Original, and I'm not sure that it's available on Kindle.
Right.
So if you've got Kindle, you might have to listen to it.
Yeah, I might do that on the train. I have a ton of reading. I have a guest coming up, I think next week, on Destination Health, and she's got a new book coming out, but it's not out yet, but she sent me the manuscript, so I'm going to get to read that one on the train. And I did find another new book on sleep that I don't know how I've missed this one in the past. That looks pretty interesting, so I'm going to be reading that one, but I can knock out both of those on the first day, so I'll still have some time.
Well, I hope you stay awake to listen to or read the sleep one. Maybe it'll put you to sleep.
Exactly. We'll see. Yeah.
All right, Kevin, that's enough clean up for one day. Thank you.
Good stuff. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Texas. Fred, man, I am so sorry with what you're
Hello.
I am so sorry with what you're going through right now. That just sucks.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the warranty. Yeah, it's one of those things. I'm ready to buy another head and dealing with this warranty issue later on.
Yeah.
But then I'll have a head that I don't need. So it's 2.5. Well, tomorrow is 3 weeks since this happened.
Fred, Come on. 2 heads are always better than one.
That's true. That's true.
Give everybody
I need a little break, so that's good.
The story real quick.
So I was just coming back empty from Austin, Texas, about an hour and a half drive. Truck shut down on me. I thought it was what happened was on number 4. I thought it was the valve. It wasn't. The ear that goes around the wrist pin. That was actually cracked and let loose because there's one side that's very smooth. Looks like oil's been getting in there for a while. So that let loose. When it came up, it whacked the valves, and everything kind of exploded in there, damaged the head and everything else. So by the time I got everything apart, got all the parts, waiting on a turbo, waiting on a few other things, I finally put it back together, had it running on Tuesday, and we had a little pop, and then we noticed oil coming out of the turbo. And I'm like, well, it's either one of two things. It's either piston ring or valve guide or a valve seat.
Yeah. So
we took the top end off. I rolled the engine, and I looked down. 2 and 5 were dry. 6 and 1 were dry. When I pulled the injector out of 4, some fuel got in there, so I couldn't really tell on that one. But when I pulled the exhaust manifold off, all 6 were wet. All 6 of them were wet. So I can understand if I damaged the ring going in on one cylinder, but all 6.
Right.
That's
right.
kind of hard to hard to believe.
That didn't happen.
So,
right.
Right. You know what I mean? You know, everything's brand new. So, and I took my time because I haven't done this in 15 years. So, yeah, it wasn't like, I'm trying to hot dog it and get back on the road. This is my livelihood. So,
right.
And I have a staff full of mechanics here that give me the moral support I need when I need it, So, anyway, got the head up, yesterday afternoon. It was late. Couldn't get anyone on the phone. So now we're dealing with that. And, all the pre-planning I made for the rough time is pretty much gone. So,
it's a good thing.
I mean, because I just bought a trailer.
Right, but it's a good thing. I just bought a trailer. I had to pay my insurance in full because they were gonna charge me an extra almost $3,000 to put it out throughout the year. Now I understand it wouldn't have been bad to lay it out over 12 months, but it's still $3,000. Yeah.
And my insurance actually went up from like almost $3,000. And they said because I live in Texas and I'm paying for everyone else's bad behavior, I guess. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
So here it is. I laid out 15 for that, 45 for a trailer, and now an engine job. And I'm out three weeks tomorrow and another probably week before I get everything resolved.
Yeah. You've heard my story of early on the year that just about put me out of business. It was like that. I mean, everything that could have gone wrong financially went wrong all at the same time.
Right. And some of this is positive. Don't get me wrong. Like I have a good trailer to go do some work with and stuff like that. And I'm going to have an engine that's going to last me for the next, probably till I retire, I guess, because I'm 54. So, that's all. This is all positive things. It's just the downtime that kills everything.
I know.
Because bills don't stop and life don't stop. So,
yep.
What do? You just keep going.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay regardless of what, Thank God my credit's an 800 score. So if I need to, I can go into charge cards, to get myself going. But I'm not looking to do that yet. But we're getting close.
There you go. There you go. All right.
So anyway, I didn't get a chance to listen to your show yesterday with the sleep, so I don't know really where you are. But I was thinking about this.
Oh, so
the nights over the last 2 weeks.
Hold on a second for the sleep. Actually, nobody's heard any of those shows yet. I don't think. Were they all?
Oh, okay.
Maybe the first one.
Okay.
Maybe the first one. Anyway,
I looked on the app and it says there's a 3-hour show from yesterday. I don't know if that was part of it. I know you had said you had, I think her name was Katie was coming on that was helping you from Four Sigmatic.
Yesterday was a really long show. We had a lot of good health stuff, but we had Kara on from NutriSense Live. But then after the live show, we recorded the final part of the sleep series. That's a 3-part series.
I got you.
We just released it this morning, all 3 parts.
Okay. So, but I noticed myself, because I've been tracking this, as you know, and I haven't really gotten into the sleep protocol because I'm getting up early, I'm getting home late, I'm wiped out. I don't want to spend the hour to do the protocol because I need all the time I can on this truck. Yeah. So to get back to work.
Yep.
And on the weekends, I have one day or a day and a half off. I don't really, don't. So anyway, long story short. But what I have noticed is the days I've had setbacks, my mind's of course working overtime, and those nights I didn't have a good sleep.
Yeah.
And you're always on in your mind, and that might be part of your sleep issue.
It's not. It's really not.
Okay.
I've worked through that. Bruce
I mean, it's subconsciously.
Yeah, Bruce and I have talked about sleep forever since I met him, because he really struggles with sleep, and that is absolutely his issue. His mind works, and he can't figure out how to shut it off. And if he wakes up in the middle of the night, it's almost always because he starts to think about some problem that he's going to solve, and
right.
that really is. The one thing that
right.
I think meditation and all the work I've put into meditation over the years, the one thing that it does allow me to do, absolutely, I can just shut off my mind. My issues are looking, and they're almost solved, by the way. I mean, we've made huge.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah. Listen to the series, and you'll see. But we've whatever it was that I kept saying is there's something just broke. I mean, I have been through so many things that don't work, and I got to the point where nothing mattered. And what I mean by that is that, I know all the rules about sleep hygiene, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter if I had the worst sleep hygiene in the world or the absolute best. My night of sleep was still the same.
Right.
That's why I thought, wait a minute, something's got to be broke here. Whatever we were able to do with the adaptogens and the herbs with Danielle from Four Sigmatic, that's been fixed. And now the things I do matter. Like, I can still have a bad night of sleep, but I can point to it and say, here's why. And then now I'm starting to get some really good nights of sleep. My sleep score's doubled.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, doubled.
Yeah, because, I mean, you see, so for me, I would just have a stressful night. I really wouldn't have a lot of awake time. I may have some broken awake time, like, a minute or two here and there, but not like I'm up thinking and contemplating or worrying about my next move. It was, I think, a subconscious stress that my mind was putting me under.
It might be. It could be. But again, I think meditation has really helped me learn a lot about that. And I had pretty much ruled out. Mine is not an overactive mind.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Well, the bright side to this whole thing is I'm getting done things on the truck that I've been meaning to get done. Little seepage here, little things there.
Excellent.
So, truck's going to be all tight when it eventually does get back on the road.
That's always good.
But I haven't talked to you in a while. I've been thinking about the sleep over the last couple of days, and figured I'd try to give you a call, about that and see what I've been finding on myself.
Yeah, go listen to the 3-part series. There's some pretty good stuff in there. Now, it may
help me with overall.
Here's the other thing, and we talk about this some in the third part. The only thing, I went through everything that I changed when Danielle set up the protocol for me. So I changed everything she recommended, obviously. I added the specific adaptogens she talked about. I added a new blend of magnesium. Mm-hmm. She thought there may have been a very specific magnesium deficiency going on, and she might have been right. I added some of what they call the flower essences. So I've done everything she's told me to do, and I've been really strict about it. And then the other things that I did kind of on my own, I quit caffeine completely. I'm doing the mushroom decaf coffee in the morning that has the adaptogen in it that she recommended, which is awesome because then it's easy to take. I'm not going to miss that. I mean, it's right in the coffee. And the coffee tastes amazing, by the way, for decaf. It's really good. I quit cannabis completely. I'm not using any cannabis when I'm struggling to sleep. I just stopped doing that completely. So that's not, because that's the one thing that no matter how bad everything else was, the cannabis would put me to sleep. So at least I could get some sleep. It got to the point where it wasn't good sleep anymore. In the beginning, if I needed it, I'd use a little and I'd get a good night's sleep. Towards the end, it would put me to sleep at least, so I can quit all the tossing and turning and wandering around the house, but it wasn't good sleep. So I quit that completely,
Right. It wasn't
quit the
quality.
caffeine completely. And I had to back off of my stress protocol even more. In the beginning, I was actually going to do it every day, a lighter version of it. Then I realized that isn't working. I went every other day. And then through watching my HRV, I was able to figure out, and every day that I did the sleep protocol, no matter how early in the day I did it, I would have a worse night of sleep that night. So I actually had to back off to every third day right now.
Wow. Okay.
But with all that,
well, yeah, you don't want to mask all of that.
Right. My HRV has risen from a low of about 32 or 33, I remember, for a 7-day average when I was at my bottom. It's now up to, I just posted it today, like 50-something for my 7-day average. It's gone up incredibly.
That's excellent.
Yeah, and my sleep scores have doubled from averaging in the 30s. I'm now up into the mid-60s.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I'm back and forth with the sleep score. My HRV is still low, but I haven't done anything to improve my stress protocol in the last 3 weeks.
Yep. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm at 31 or 32, but I am balanced right now, so which is good.
Got it. Yep, that is good.
So, yeah. All right. So it's excellent to talk to you again. Everyone have a good day. And I'm going to get back at it over here.
There you go. Good to hear from you. We'll talk to you again soon. Let's go to Kentucky. John, welcome to the program.
Yeah, howdy. Thanks, Kevin. I wanted to see if you can give me some insight and advice. This is kind of an ongoing, I just discovered this last night. My mom's 90, and I remember about 2 weeks ago she had physical therapy, and the therapist came in and he said, yeah, her blood pressure is 110/60. Her pulse is 60. Well, just not paying attention, I discovered last night the doctor's got her on 4 blood pressure medication.
Unbelievable.
And 3 of them plus a diuretic.
Unbelievable.
It's almost like a protocol for congestive heart failure.
Yeah.
She has no congestive heart failure. She's a paleo type eater, and her blood pressure this morning, before eating, before meds, which I've asked, she's cut out now, but was 98/64.
So,
and her oxygen saturation is 95.
So you said she was 90, right?
Yeah, she's 90.
So I'm gonna make a pretty bold
and they
statement
had her on a statin.
Of course they did. Everybody's on a statin if you listen to your doctor. Here's what really bothers me about this. The doctor's an idiot. Does he realize what the number one reason for elderly people dying? It's a fall. They fall, they break a bone, usually a hip, a big bone. They never recover from that. It's downhill from there. Low blood pressure in somebody will cause them to faint and fall.
Yeah, and she had a fall, but thank God she, was okay. And I got
here's the problem that doctors have. And, I blame it on the system. They're so overworked. They don't get time to think about each patient the way they should be. She has high blood pressure. I'm sure everybody in America does by the time they get to that age, unless you eat really clean and do other things around stress and lifestyle. So, okay, they put her on lisinopril. Usually it's the first one. Her blood pressure comes down. It's normal. Then they show up in the office one day and they get one high reading. One high reading in the office. We should be monitoring this stuff every day, multiple times if we have a problem. So they just add another medication on. And then another one and another. They never take any of them away. She could easily experiment on her own, take one away. Just take one of them. Pick one, the last one they prescribed. Stop taking that one. See what happens when you're only on 3.
Right.
Then let's take the next one away and see what happens when you're only on 2. And then maybe let's add some Cardio Miracle, and who knows if she needs any medication.
Well, before medication, she had 98 over 64. So, I mean, with a 60 pulse.
Wait,
I told her,
stop.
I said, I don't think you need any of it.
Stop.
Yes.
I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. She was on, at some point in her life, she was on no blood pressure medication, and her normal blood pressure was 98 over 60 something?
No, that's what it was this morning.
Oh, right. But she's on 4 medications.
Before she took any med or
but
ate anything.
Yeah, but hold on. I mean, the medications have been in her system. They're always in her system. It's not like... Right. So just because she hadn't taken her medication that day doesn't mean anything. Her blood pressure right now is artificially low because of all the medications.
Yeah, that's...
And at her age, that becomes dangerous.
Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, the therapist took it, and it was 110 over 60. The 60-fold.
That
while she was on the med.
That bottom number's starting to get a little worrying at that point.
Right, a little low, but at 90...
And here's the thing. If somebody has that blood pressure naturally with no medication, I'm not all that worried about it. We might go in and look for things like adrenal fatigue, but it's not like an emergency. Low blood pressure is just fine, especially if you're not elderly. But in the elderly, the number one thing we have to watch out for is falls.
Right, she's been getting dizzy.
Of course. Her blood pressure's too low.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, and a diuretic. I don't understand that.
Oh, well.
A water pill.
Yeah, I'll explain why. Your blood has a lot of water in it. Well, when there's a lot of water in your blood, it increases the volume of your blood, which increases your blood pressure. But a healthy human being should be able to stay fully hydrated and not have high blood pressure. This is just the medical system's way of a hack. If you pee a lot and you can't retain any water, your blood pressure goes down, but you're also dehydrated, which is not a good state to be in. That's all it is.
Right, and you're losing a lot of minerals and potassium.
It's basically a hack to lower their blood pressure so they can check the box. Nope, look, we got her blood pressure down in the normal range. Sure, but you're doing it with a diuretic, which dehydrates people.
Right, which is not healthy. And that's hard on your liver.
You haven't solved the problem at all. You've made it worse.
Right.
It's just we all medical system cares about what are your numbers. Oh, look, they're high. We have a drug to get them low. Oh, look, now they're normal. You're good.
Yeah, and all through her life, she had low blood pressure. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't paying it. Then all of a sudden, I'm not sure how long she's been on the blood pressure medicine.
I don't know how you go from low blood pressure all that time to 4 medications. That's just insane.
That's what I can't figure out. Yeah. And
it is entirely possible. A good functional medicine doctor could get her off all 4 of them and she'd have totally normal blood pressure.
Yeah, I said to her, I think we need to get you off of this. And she says, good, I don't want to take this crap anymore.
Find her a good functional medicine doctor. Don't listen to some ex-truck driver on the radio. Go find a good functional medicine doctor, and he'll get her off of this crap.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. So
yep, I would.
It didn't make any sense. And I was like, why a statin when you're 90?
Well,
on
that
top of everything else.
she can talk to the functional medicine doctor about that as well. It's the best thing you could do for her right now. Go find the doctor and set it up for her.
Yeah. I've been trying to. Yeah, that was the direction we were thinking of.
Yep, just go do it.
So yeah. All right. Well, very good.
Good talking to you. Let's go to Texas. Mike, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for taking my call. I sent you 2 Caterpillar oil samples. It's under Oil Slick.
Yep, I've got them right here in front of me.
Running high iron.
Are you using Catalyst?
Yeah, on the first sample, it's running 102 on the iron, and I was running the Catalyst kind of rich. And on the second sample, I changed the oil, then I leaned out the Catalyst, and it was running 72.
Yeah, that's fine. We don't even, and one of the things we'll do to verify that is we kind of look around at some of the other wear metals to see, and we look to see is there anything in the sample that might cause wear metals. And if we see normal wear other than iron and nothing in the oil to cause the iron, then we know it's just a side effect of the catalyst. And I'm thinking, well, this oil sample doesn't have a mileage on it. How many miles are on this engine?
245.
How many miles are on the oil?
Each oil is about 45,000.
Yeah, that's quite a bit, actually. So I'm not really seeing anything wrong here. The one sample had some elevated potassium, but there was no sodium to speak of, and it looks like they also did a glycol water test, and there was no glycol or water. So we've ruled out any kind of an internal coolant leak. It's just an environmental contaminant, which we see a lot more in the wintertime. Once they start putting down anything for ice and snow, they're almost always potassium and sodium-based products, and we can pick them up, through the air. They can end up in the oil. We're talking about traces. So I don't worry about that. I don't see any real need to do anything with this. This seems like a pretty clean sample to me.
Perfect. Okay. Hey, I got something else to pick your brain at.
Sure.
So we have one of these big ARI trucks.
Okay.
When the big sleeper truck, me and my wife travel together.
Yeah.
We bought this truck in 2020. It was $300,000. It's a T880.
Okay.
And so we run pretty mellow. I run 64 during the day. She runs about 62 at night. Our fuel mileage is in the high 6s, and that includes our generator, running our diesel generator at night.
Okay.
Because we run it all the time. The little Kubota uses like half gallon an hour.
Yeah.
And so we consider maybe getting a Volvo. But man, the new ones are like $375 now. It's like, geez, I don't know if it's.
You mean with a big sleeper?
Yes.
Yeah.
A Volvo, go buy the same big truck with the big sleeper.
Right.
Is now $375.
Isn't that insane?
So
I know.
It's like,
I know.
Geez.
Right. All I can say every time I hear this, we're all feeling the pinch on prices of everything. Go vote. Go vote. Look, we had virtually no inflation under the last administration. The minute this administration took over and attacked the oil and gas industry here in this country, everything went through the roof. It's not going to change. We've got to change the administration. This is going to kill our economy, and it's look at what it's doing to all of us.
Yeah. And so we haul open deck freight. So I know I'm not going to get Joel's gas mileage he gets, but if I was, hearing you guys talk about getting 1 or 2 miles per gallon better, then that's a lot of money.
There's
that's what we toss around.
No reason with an open deck, even with a big sleeper. I've worked with a couple people the exact same setup. There is no reason we can't get 8.5.
Yeah, that's so that would be averaging 1.5 miles per gallon better.
Exactly.
So that'd be like $15,000 a year. That'd make like 3 truck payments.
Right. May even be a little more than that right now with fuel at $5.36 a gallon, I think is the national average right now. But so that you look at that and you go, why wouldn't I do that? You know, well, the reason I wouldn't is because none of us want to pay $375,000 for a truck. I would say, this is one of those where there's no right or wrong answer to this. We could do the math. It's not really going to be clear enough. Here's another factor that we absolutely have to look at. If you go to get this new truck, are you going to be able to pay cash? Or are you going to have to finance something?
We have to finance it.
Finance rates are through the roof. So, your $375 is going to hurt bad, but wait till you look at what the payment turns out to be because of the interest rate.
Yeah.
Which again comes back to the administration. They created the inflation to begin with. They failed to admit that there was inflation. Remember? Oh, it's transitory. Oh no, it's peaked. It's going away. Because they did that, and they failed to act in time. Now, the only way to get this inflation under control is to keep raising interest rates over and over and over. They're about to do it again, either this week or next week. So we get killed both ways. Can't buy a house because the house prices are still too high. Can't buy a truck because they're still too high. And if we have to finance either one, you almost can't even afford to do it anymore.
Yes, and that brings up another thing. So,
well, here, let me go back.
Go ahead.
I got a little off track there. The only way I can answer a question like this, math isn't going to do it, is just what would I do? And I would just have to say there's no way I could buy a new truck under these conditions. Because the minute you sign the paper, you're stuck with those conditions. You paid the price. It's too late to go back. And you've got the financing. You're screwed. If both of those things come down in the next 6 months, which they both will eventually when the economy crashes, then that's the time to buy. So for me, I am not making any big financial decisions or purchases right now.
And that's the other challenge, Steph, because to order these trucks, Volvo's saying it's going to take 2 years to get one.
Right.
And so if the price drops, would we still be locked in at the price we paid for it? I'm not sure how that would work.
I'm not sure either. You'd have to, each manufacturer may have a different policy on that. I would never take the chance. And I know it, well, you say, well, if I don't order it, I would not pull the trigger and commit to anything unless you can put in an order with a very small amount of money down or the ability to get the money back if you cancel. So I might look at, can I go cut some sort of a deal where I can get my order in? And if the price comes down, I would actually gain from that. I would get a lower price and I don't have to commit a whole bunch of money. If I could make all of those things happen, then I'd go order one. But if I can't make all of those things happen, I'm just going to sit it out.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking we're going to do. We just see all Joel's posts and him talking, and it just sounds so appetizing.
I know.
But I don't know if that would be our world to be able to do that.
Yeah, you're not going to get to 10.5. You're not going to push 11 like he's able to do sometimes. 8.5 is absolutely safe. Like I could almost guarantee we can get 8.5. It's very possible we might get 9. We might be able to do better. There's a lot of factors in there. You guys drive reasonable speeds, so that's easy enough. The open deck freight is the biggest variable in there. The big sleeper, it has somewhat of an impact, but not really all that much.
I did take my big well tail off the top.
Good.
I had talked to you guys about that a while ago, and that has seemed to be my biggest improvement, taking that big tail.
Isn't
and
that
also
crazy?
Noticed the back of the truck stays a lot.
I know.
Yes, and the back of the truck stays a lot cleaner. It's not all filthy and hammered with dirt all the time.
The right, and the aerodynamics up at the front actually affect the aerodynamics all the way to the back of the trailer. So the one impact that big sleeper tends to have is the same issue I deal with my coach. Even though it's nice and streamlined and smooth, it's still a surface. There is more surface friction there. So you do have an impact by the big sleeper. And usually when you see a big sleeper, well, your gap doesn't matter anyway because you're flat deck. So, yeah. So there's an impact there. But and the weight, people will go, well, the weight. Well, yeah, but we're still going to max out at the same weight anyway most of the time, unless we're heavy haul. So the impact of that big sleeper in your operation isn't all that much, really.
Yeah, I hear you. And you talk about empty weights, like our empty weight is 45, so we're pretty heavy just right off the bat.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, where that has an impact is when you're empty. If I'm empty and I'm that much lighter than you, then yes, there's an impact. When we're both loaded, we may end up at the same weight anyway.
True. Yeah, all those heavy loads, we just have to pass on them all and let somebody else haul the heavy stuff. We wait for the light stuff.
Right.
And so we really like your new show format, but there's one thing we're missing. There's a lot of us that truck with our wives, and we struggle with that. We need some help with that.
How's that?
Well,
I mean,
and yeah, the challenges of being trucking with your wife.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I'm going to address that.
Like women Wednesdays or something after the Health Channel.
let me address that. And I understand what it's like because Lisa and I have run our business together from day one. We work together. We work at home. We're together all the time. We travel together. So I get it. I understand. Here's the thing that I've always said. You're going to have to call Dr. Phil for this one. I've covered a lot of topics over the years. I've researched a lot of topics. The one I'm never going to give advice to anybody is relationships. Not me. We're going to have to find somebody else for that one.
Yeah, that was our reason for getting a bigger truck because we just needed.
Absolutely.
She needed more space from me. I don't need the space from her, but she needs the space from me.
That's usually how it goes. Yeah, I realize how difficult I can be to live with. There's no doubt about that. But I don't know what to do about it. If I knew how to fix that problem, I'd fix my own, but I can't. So I certainly shouldn't be giving advice to anybody else about it.
Well, you'd probably be the richest guy in the world if you didn't know how to fix that problem.
Yeah, well, I'd be Dr. Phil. Yeah, he seems to be pretty good at it.
Sure. So, okay, sir. I appreciate you taking my call.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Florida. John, welcome to the program.
Kevin, are you there?
I am. What's on your mind today?
Hey, I didn't know I was up next.
Yep.
Yeah, I listen for a long time. I don't hardly ever call in. I've just want to say thank you. I've been in the $100,000 a year net owner operator club since 2016.
Congratulations!
And built a nice life for myself.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you for your business. I'm a regular customer of Pittsburgh Power, and then of course. MD Alignment shops as well.
Thanks for the support. I appreciate it.
So a few months ago, I bought all the Garmin products. I got the watch, got the tablet, I got that wireless backup camera, the headset, the whole thing.
Wait. We have two more to add if you want to keep going. I think they're just coming into the store this week. We have the new blood pressure monitor and the new scale. We are Garmin across the board over here.
Oh.
Yeah.
The scale, that might be interesting.
I've been using it. I really like it. It measures body fat. It measures bone density. It measures hydration levels. and it all interfaces with your watch and your Garmin Connect app, and is really cool. Same thing with the blood pressure monitor. It's a wireless. You stick it on your arm, hit the button, sends all the data right to your watch.
Now, remember when you were talking about the issues with getting the HRV on the watch?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't really do anything, but I think maybe I got one of the newer ones. But essentially, it just, and I remember listening to your show where you had the Garmin guy on, but essentially after, I don't know, like 30 days, let's say, it started showing up in the app and on the watch.
Yeah, so two things can happen when all of a sudden you've got new data. The software updates occasionally, and we get new features. The hardware on the watch itself, or what they call the firmware in the watch, updates. My watch actually did a firmware update this morning. So when I get off the air, I'm going to look around and see what new data I might have now. And HRV and some of the other metrics, sometimes they need a certain amount of time to kind of gather the baseline data. So it really is interesting how proactive Garmin is in constantly adding new features and new stuff. And you're right. I just wake up one day and go, oh, look, I never saw that before.
Yeah. Well, I knew it was in there, but it took time from sleeping with it and all that till it started giving you numbers.
Yeah, there are some metrics that if you don't wear your watch to bed, you will never get them. That you have to wear the watch overnight to get some of the readings.
Yeah.
And then the other thing,
do you have...
this is probably, if I had to say there's a downside to the Garmin products, it's the fact that they have so much data that they can be difficult sometimes to navigate and understand. And that, some of the data people go, oh, my watch doesn't do that. Yes, it does. You just have to know where to go in and turn it on. Like mine, this watch is capable of measuring pulse ox, the amount of oxygen in your blood. But I turned that feature off because it's not all that important to me, and it uses a ton of battery. I mean, if I turn it off, on a full charge, I get like 26 days on a full charge. If I turn it on, I get 11, I think.
Right. Do you have a recommendation? My wife, she's likes the watch now. Do you have a recommendation for a woman on the Garmin watches?
What do you mean? As far as which model?
Yeah.
Well, the only model that I really test with Garmin is the Diesel itself. And the Diesel is based on the Instinct 2. So if you look at Garmin and you want to look at the Instinct 2, you can see different maybe colors or bands, or I'm not sure what the differences are going to be. Garmin has so many devices, I don't even try to look at any of the others. It's all I can do to keep up with, the one that we were a part of designing, and we still work with them on features. And I'm so busy staying up with this one, I don't even try to keep up with the others.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask.
Yep.
I had one more thing about the Maxwell and batteries on a truck and everything.
Okay.
So I have Mr. Howdy, a New Zealand guy. I haul cars too. I have a 80-foot Stinger car hauler.
Okay.
I use the Maxwell, and I have a lithium iron phosphate battery alongside.
Excellent. Love that setup.
And I used to use 3 of the Deep Cycle AGMs. And I would only get about 2.5 years. And I shut my truck off for loading and unloading. I have a fully electric PTO pump and motor and all that.
Nice. What an awesome
setup. Now,
how many amp hours are in your lithium battery?
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to explain to you. So the AGM or the lead acid whether it's sealed or not, they will only run at pretty good capacity if they're like 50% state of charge or higher.
Correct. Right. Yeah.
The benefit.
Almost all the
of
work I'm doing with batteries now is really on the lithium side. You know, the different versions of lithium, which you really don't compare amp hours to the others because it's not an apples to apples comparison. But I'm familiar with most of the lithium batteries being sold right now are right around 100 amp hours. Sounds like you've got something bigger than that.
So, correct. So I was going to get, and I've had this for 3 years now. So this isn't, I put a lot of use on it. So this isn't like I bought it a month ago.
Right.
I was going to get 3 Group 31s to match up. Right.
Right.
Well, the sales guy, he told me, we got this other battery and it's one battery, and it's actually a little bit smaller than if you were to put 3 Group 31s together, but it's like a rectangle shape. It's different.
Well,
but anyway, it fits in the battery box that takes 4.
The other advantage
with the single Maxwell.
Yeah, and the other advantage to that is you don't have all the damn cabling.
Correct.
Yeah, I love that setup.
Now, back to the point about the amp hours and all that. So the lithium iron phosphate that I have, it'll run the PTO motor and all that strong below 50% of charge.
Correct.
So when you do, so the one I have is actually, it says on there 250 amp hours, but it's actually more power than when I used to have 3 Group 31s that reach like 110 or 105 a piece.
Correct. Yep.
Because it can run
you can discharge them so much farther down, they still function. The other problem with the AGMs, the more often you try to get down to that bottom, the faster you're going to wear out that battery.
Correct. Yeah. Now the other thing on the Maxwell. So Tesla bought them out, right?
Like right now, you have what I consider to be about the ideal setup in a truck.
Yeah, and it could be a little better if I can get some lithium iron phosphates that aren't made in China. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Good luck with that.
But anyway, the Maxwell. So they're not making them anymore, right?
Correct.
And you've had some calls recently, but I've got some good experience. So I had one that just went out a few months ago, and it was, you talked a lot about they don't really fail. Well, I had a failure. It was only like 14 months old. And if anybody else has this, you deal directly with Pana-Pacific, and they're still honoring warranty claims, and they will, I guess, for as long as these things are around. So I was able to get my money back, and then I happened to locate another one that was sitting at a dealer, and I was able to get a replacement.
Excellent. That's good information, because what happened, I think, there was we were a dealer, so we had to work through a distributor, and we had a different distributor than Pana-Pacific. We loved the distributor we had. They were great, but they were small. And when the company went away, they just didn't have the resources. So it's interesting to know that Pana-Pacific is still servicing that. I didn't realize that. That's important for the people.
Yeah, I figured that'd be helpful.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, so it's like, I love this setup, but if I don't have a start module, it doesn't exactly work,
Yeah, I've got a phone number for somebody that is supposed to be distributing the Skell Start. I haven't had a chance to try to get a hold of them yet. There is a better product on the market.
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
It's a German. It's a bigger capacity, better quality. It really looks like a nice product. It's just we've tried to contact the manufacturer directly. There was supposed to be a distributor here in the U.S., and we couldn't get anything done there. Somebody called me and said that they found a distributor, and I've got the number. And the guy's not that far away from me. He's in Washington State, so I just need to find some time to.
Could I get that information?
Let me see if I can look back through my notes and see if I have it. Yeah, if I can find it here, I'll give it to you, and maybe you can go do the homework for me. You ready to write something down or record this?
Yeah, go ahead.
His name's Mike Phillips. The number was 360-334-1959.
1959.
Yep.
Okay.
And I know nothing about
All
this
right,
guy.
Kevin.
It was
I appreciate it.
You know, it was a random caller that said, "Here's a guy," and so I haven't had a chance to call him yet. So I have no idea what you might find.
All right.
If you find something
Well, what
good,
I've got's
let me know.
working right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
All right.
So,
Thank
you.
You're welcome. We're going to wrap this up. So here's what's going on right now. We're not taking any more general calls. Mike Beckett has been standing by ready to go live at 10 o'clock. It's just about 4 minutes. We're going to be a little late. I need to close out this show on our system and start a new show. Mike is on his own today. So I think I'm going to join Mike for the first 10 or 15 minutes here or so, kind of get the show rolling and catch up with Mike. I haven't had a chance to talk to him in a while. So that's what we're going to do. We will be back within 5 minutes. It usually doesn't take me long at all. So stick around. We'll be right back. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.